Are you tired of the hassles of traditional snowboard bindings? Hurt your back again strapping in?
Ow, my back!
Sick of the dreaded and embarrassing snowy butt? Left in the dust by your skier pals? And don't even get me started on broken bindings. Well, say goodbye to those binding blues and hello to the future of snowboarding with step-in bindings. With step-ins, you just click and go. No more fumbling with frozen fingers, no more awkward contortions, just pure, unadulterated shredding. And let's face it, step-ins are the ultimate chick magnet. Forget the bunny slope. With step-ins, you'll be king of the mountain and
Dude,
the lodge.
what are you watching?
So what are you waiting
Oh,
for?
it's an infomercial for those lame step-on bindings.
Wait, are you one of those people who thinks step-ons are for losers?
Aren't they?
What up, Shredder? We all have that friend that swears by step-ins. You know, the one who's always bragging about how many extra runs they get in while you're still struggling with your straps.
Let's be real, dude. I'm getting, 5, 6, 7 extra runs in because of these babies?
Then there's the friend who judges anybody who sits down in the snow for even a second.
Look at them. They're disgusting.
Who?
The snow sitters. Yeah, I mean, you get off and you just step right in. You don't even have to bend over. I mean, look at this. You just step right in. You just don't even have to bend over.
And don't even get me started on the friend who wants to keep up with their skier friend. You can't trust anybody who's friends with skiers.
Plus, most of my friends are skiers anyways.
I mean, it's way quicker. I can keep up with my ski buddies,
Gotcha.
But look, I don't want to be completely biased. We all know the other side can be just as bad. Like your friend who can barely falling leaf down a black diamond, but can't stop saying, if they're so great, why don't the pros use them? I mean, you also don't see race car drivers driving a Toyota RAV4, yet somehow it's the third best-selling car of last year. The measure of, is it worth it, doesn't have to be, do the most aggressive users on the planet like it? So we wanted to settle the debate once and for all, or at least try step-ins for the first time to find out, is it worth it for the average person? And should you consider giving step-ins a shot? But first, let's take it back. In the year 1999, in a little backwoods hill in Pennsylvania, a rental shop manager decided to make the entire rental fleet step-in bindings. I'm not talking about modern-day Burton Step-ins. I'm talking about a board with no high backs, no straps, and just a little metal under your feet. And I got my first exposure to loose boards flying down the mountain, out-of-control beginners with no chance of actually learning to control their snowboard. I think this is why a lot of East Coast mountains started requiring leashes to ride there. Back in the day, the players in the step-in market were surprisingly not that much different from now. We had Switch, which was bought by Vans and subsequently shut down.
This is a Van shoe. This is a chick. Get the picture?
Then there was K2 Clickers, which uses a cleat mechanism on the bottom of the boot to step in. Sound familiar?
We're at the K2 Masters Classic. Our leaders are even at 18.
This is Chris E. Trevino's final jump. Here's his approach.
Solid performance.
That's going to be tough to beat.
And then there was Burton's Step-ins, or Step-ons, which have a normal bottom but use mechanisms on the side and back to lock in. Needless to say, I don't think you had much control of the board with early step-ins, even though this guy wrote an entire article about how he was a convert. But I'm not sure we should trust him given that he said, and I quote, "I found the Switch auto-lock system to be all that and a bag of chips." Oh, the 90s. Cut to modern day, we make a couple calls and get a hookup to get the gear, lose our straps, and drive up to the mountain to test it out for you. And to rate step-ins or step-ons or click-ins or clickers or whatever you want to call them on 5 major criteria.
Shout out to K2 for making this happen. They hooked us up with the bindings and the boots to go find out our step-ins for losers. Now, we just got off our first run of the bunny hill and we're heading up top to actually put this stuff to the test with 5 different criteria. So should you go out and try step-ins. So we're going to test getting on and off the lift, carving and turning, jumps and side hits, butters and rails, and the cool factor. So we're going to jump out there right now, but first, I just took 2 runs on this down the bunny hill. My first impressions are, number 1, it's kind of fun to step in and out, and it is really fast and generally easy, although sometimes you miss, and then you're just all over the place. Two, it's kind of hard to get out of these things. Sometimes your toe will hook in, and it's actually harder to get out than straps, but of course I'm new to these, so it's always going to be harder to do something new. Three, it is really fun to ride in these. It's a different feel than the straps, so there's that novelty factor where I'm having fun with it. And that being said, it feels like I'm just riding in my boots. So what you would expect if you didn't have straps. And I feel like my boots are getting loose very quickly, but it's fun because I have like a lot of movement. But if you look at these bindings, the boots aren't even really touching the high back, which, you know, that could be for better or worse. So I kind of like this like surfy loose style to it, but I can tell you I would be pretty scared to like send it as big as I could off of something or go hit the jumps with this. And again, that could just be psychological and mental. It's no reflection on the actual product, but just my initial reaction to actual step-ins.
My initial reaction with these K2 clickers is, where are my straps? I feel naked, you know, it's like going somewhere with no clothes on. It's like, what is happening? So it's very strange. I'm afraid I'm gonna come out of these things. So let's hope for the best and send it.
Number 1, getting on and off the lift. You might fumble around at first, but after you get used to it, it really is faster and more convenient to strap in and out of your bindings, or should I say step in. And sure, that means you can keep up with your skier friends, but the bigger problem might be that you need to get new friends. And not to say that you'll get it first try, but after a couple of runs, it becomes second nature to step in. But what about if it's snowing? I hear the commenter saying, powder is a common objection to using step-ins. First of all, I see beginners riding around all the time with huge chunks of powder under their boot. I don't think it's too much harder than a regular boot to just scoop out the snow before you step in. As far as boots go, these boots were so comfortable that Dan wore these with his regular bindings after we traded in our step-ins. But if you like to ride loose boots like me, well, these do get loose riding step-ins, but they need to be tight for the step-ins to actually work since there are no bindings backing you up. I found my boots loosening much more often than I'd like. It wasn't too hard to fix with the BOA system, but I definitely didn't feel super supported. Now with Burton, don't expect to be riding strap bindings without buying a whole new set of boots, as these are only compatible with step-in bindings. For K2, you can make the switch easily. Number 2, we looked at carving and turning. We actually met a Japanese rider in line who uses step-ins because they are more responsive than strap bindings.
So I made some adjustments to the bindings to make it a little more responsive.
Because they're clicked directly into your boots, he said traditional bindings have a 300 millisecond drag compared to step-ins. Between initiating a turn and following through on the turn, the step-ins are going to be faster. That might not seem like a lot or very important, but in Japan they have carving competitions, and I guess every 300 milliseconds counts. He was riding Burtons, but I have to say, the lateral movement of your boot side to side with the K2 clickers, it's a little wobbly to say the least. But overall, I'd say these pass the test for carving and turning. The wobbliness can even be fun at first, but it's a bit unnerving, which brings us to our next item. Number 3 is jumps and side hits.
So I kind of like this like surfy loose style to it, but I can tell you I would be pretty scared to like send it as big as I could off of something or go hit the jumps with this.
And yet, we took our first run of the year through Coppers Park on these things. Initially, I felt totally out of control. I mean, look at that side-to-side flex, that's crazy. And that's pretty much what it feels like when you're going off jumps. Look at this indie nose bone, you can see the boot lifting. By the second run though, we were hitting the medium line and even doing 540s after we gotten used to it. I still don't think I'd want to be strapped into these things or stepped in, dropping in to hit the big line. For jumps, I'm going to say it's a fail for me. They do not pass the test. I just didn't have the stability and trust that I needed to send it. I wouldn't want to find out what happens if you actually break these things through sheer force of trying to land some huge trick on a big jump. Number 4, we looked at butters and rails. I was riding my POW board, so Dan was our main butters and rails tester. Now these things ride pretty loose and leave a lot of room for movement, so I'd say overall they were fine on rails. If you like riding loose boots and bindings already, like a lot of jibbers do, it's probably not going to feel much different, and it gives you the flexibility you need to get your jib on. And if you're hiking a rail, it makes it even easier to get more hits. I'd say for most people this passes the test, and you can see that a lot of jibbers in the Midwest actually like these things. Number 5, finally, we looked at the cool factor. Let's be honest, the infomercial said it all. Straps are lame, step-ins give you game. And lastly, there's the fear. This was a common thread from everyone we talked to, and I even repeated it myself in this video.
I guess it would just be a trust issue, right? Like, I mean, I haven't heard of anybody losing, but they're bored, you know what I mean?
But it's just like you're just like one step closer to being a skier, like.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, the fear of these things breaking free is unwarranted. We haven't actually seen or talked to anyone who popped out of these or had any safety concerns. I've also seen straps break, inserts rip out, and high back snap on traditional bindings, so you're not immune from equipment failures no matter what you ride. At the end of the day, I went back to my regular old strap-in bindings, and I have to say it did feel slightly inconvenient to go back, and also felt like I was actually snowboarding again. Personally, I've learned that I like my bindings stiff and my boots soft. When there are no bindings and it's just soft boots, I don't quite have enough support. Now, if you've completely given up on life and exerting any effort at all, like this guy, then I'd recommend you switch to step-ins. Or if you're Japanese carving aficionado, you might like them too. If you're spending your time in the park hitting jumps, well, I'd stick with the straps. And if you like to cruise the whole mountain and free ride, you can probably go either way. We want to know what you think in the comments. Step-ins, yay or nay? Let us know your thoughts, and please let us know in the comment if you've actually used step-ins or not, which ones you used, and what kind of stuff you like to ride, because this makes a huge difference. That's all for today. Peace out, Shredder.
So, you gonna make the switch next year?
No, I'm just gonna train harder. That was pathetic. Your skier friends just left you. Run it again! No! Hey, do you know what would be even faster than click-ins?
What?
Skis. You don't have to strap in at all.
Huh. Never thought about that.